A message on climate change, a new one from Bill Gates that surprised a lot of people. In a new essay, Gates, who has long devoted a huge amount of time and money to awareness on climate change, he now argues more resources should be focused on poverty and hunger. He says that he doesn't think climate change will basically end humanity. With us now is CNN chief data analyst Harry Enten. And the reason this is interesting is because this does represent a shift in Bill Gates in his public speaking on climate change. And when you hear a shift on climate change, Harry, it made you think about maybe how people are looking at it differently.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will agree with Bill Gates that maybe this wouldn't be the end of humanity. And I think, we've been talking about climate change now for decades upon decades upon decades. And the worry in terms of climate change, simply put, hasn't shifted. It has not reached the majority of Americans. What are we talking about? Greatly worried about climate change. You go all the way back to 1989, it was 35%. 2000, 40%. 2020, 46%. And in 2025, look at that. It's 40%, the same number as we had 25 years ago back in 2000, and then only just 5 points higher than we had back in 1989. Really, we've just seen consistency on this issue. The bottom line is that the climate change message that folks who, of course, believe that climate change is real and is quite worrisome, simply put, has not really worked with the American people.
So greatly worried. You say greatly worried. I mean, so people say they're greatly worried, 40%, but how worried? Really? Is it the biggest thing they're worried about?
Yeah, it is not anywhere close to being the biggest thing that people are worried about. What are we talking about here? Well, why don't we just talk about top issue facing the U.S., climate change. Well, I got some numbers for you on the screen right here. You don't have to be a mathematical genius to know that these numbers are not particularly high. Top issue facing the United States, climate change. It was 3% in 2021, 2% on average of polls in 2023, and this year the average of polls 2. It is very, very low on the list of priorities. I was trying to count it out in the Gallup poll, and basically it was so low down, I was counting all the different issues, I almost lost track. It was like 15th or 20th. It was just very, very low down. So the bottom line is not only are we seeing that the number has not really moved over the last 36 years, but in terms of being the top issue, it simply put has not broken through. 2%, there are just a ton of things that rank way higher on the list of importance.
Even I can count to 2. In terms of how people feel it will impact them directly, what are you saying?
Yeah, I'll just note 2 things. Number 1, your Harvard education paying off. But number 2, right here, look at this. Climate change effect on my home area will be harder to stay here. Look, in 2023, it was 23%. Look at where we are now, 17%. Now, these numbers are pretty comparable, but they're pretty comparable on the low side is what we're talking about here, is Americans simply put just don't think we'll have the type of impact that will really change their lives, which again goes back to the message that Bill Gates was saying, right? This is not something that's going to be devastating for humanity. It's something we can work our way out of. A lot of Americans agree, and even on this, we're talking about just 27% of Democrats who believe that climate change affecting my home area, it will be harder to stay here. So even on the left wing, where you'd expect the climate change message to hit most home, it simply put is not reaching that type of level in terms of the doomsday scenario that Bill Gates is talking about.
Interesting. Whether or not he's following the science or public opinion, it does seem to be a shift here. Harry Enten, great to see you.
Great to see you
very much.